Walking is a biomechanical process natural to human life, thus is taken for granted. It involves coordination of brain functions and the musculoskeletal system. One's walk may need monitoring and correction either to recover from an injury, trauma, or simply to achieve excellence.
So this is the smart insole, shoe insole, and this has a number of sensors impregnated in the shoe insole. And this came up with an idea to characterize one's gait. By characterization, I mean how the gait is being quantified, the manner in which one walks. So this came up as a part of a bigger research project that ran over a period of nearly 5 years. So we in fact went through several iterations in this development process. We went through validation, where we validated both across healthy and also against abnormal gait patterns of patients, even in hospitals. This shoe can record various spatiotemporal gait parameters such as stride time, step time. Even it can find out gait stability ratio, which can prevent falls, which is an indicator of falls, and also the symmetry, the way in which we are using both the legs.
Install helps in recording data in an autonomous manner and analyzing the same with a computer program to understand improvements in various aspects of walking, helping healthcare professionals to determine the course of treatment.
We have used different technology-based solutions and found a combination that can offer a cost-effective way to measure one's gait. Here we have used sensors that do not interfere with your normal walking pattern. We have used wireless connectivity to get rid of all the wires hanging around.
The established wireless connection is stable enough over a long time and also accurately communicating over a long range.
The calibrated sensors are used to acquire data perfectly. A proper care has been taken for their placement on the design insole.
The design team got involved in the project once the technology was tried and tested. We analyzed various configurations for products so that it becomes usable without affecting the technological performance. In the end, we've achieved a sole that can be removed from one shoe and can be put in any other shoe. In the end, we've tried to push the product towards a very user-friendly, aesthetically attractive and acceptable in the market.
Using the least amount of area for electronic components, and by just adding the necessary elements to it, we have maintained a good composition of simple and compact design. The texture, color and cushioning were picked in such a way so that it improves the functionality of it.
The Install GUI is an interface for user to visualize and record the shoe data. Later, it calculates gait indices from the recorded data for rehabilitation and clinical purposes.
So the gait-related indices can be monitored and also recorded in computers, in laptops, wirelessly. And as a result, it can contribute to telemonitoring. In fact, this can keep an eye on how a person is walking and what is the rehabilitation outcomes. Also, there can be different applications, like it can be used in gyms, it can be used in rehab centers, old age homes, so it has a number of diverse applications.
Install can potentially change the diagnostic scenario for walking parameters. IRACS at IIT Gandhinagar is working on more technologies that will address not just biomechanical issues but cognitive issues as well.
Currently, ID cards are being replaced by biometric scanning for identification purposes. Instead of an external trait, we have started using something which is internal as well as unique to us. IIT Gandhinagar researchers plan to do the same with printers.
Okay, so the primary objective is like creation of fingerprinting or database for the sensors which are producing data for us.
There is something known as watermark used to distinguish different copies of a document.
So that's the idea next on. So I don't want to embed some extrinsic characteristic to it, a watermark, visible or invisible, but I want to utilize the way printers are working themselves without putting anything extraneous. Then even if the same content is printed from two different printers, we can identify which printer it is coming from depending on the inherent characteristic of the printing mechanism itself. So that's the idea. It's the same text printed from two different printers. So visually it should look exactly same. As a human observer, I should not be able to tell that this page is coming from printer A, this page is coming from printer B, because text is exactly same. And even their quality, text quality is almost similar.
So what we are doing in this problem is that from the scanned pages of printed documents, we are extracting the characters printed on that. From each letter, we then extract some statistical features. Those are based on the local texture. We made it letter independent. So as to say that we took all the letters, let it be A, E, A to Z, any letter. And the other thing was, in our latest work, what we have done is, we have made it font, we have tried to make it font independent.
This would be helpful in solving legal issues like leakage of certain documents such as leases and wills.
Want to verify from what source this data is coming. Is that source reliable or not? Or even after production from that source, maybe some changes have happened in the data.
This research used text only in English language. Now, the challenges are to apply it into different languages and types of paper.
Iti Gupta joined IIT Gandhinagar in 2009 as a professor and researcher in chemistry. She and her team have recently developed a compound that is a step towards effective imaging and treatment of cancer cells.
Our dyes are highly useful for cancer cell imaging and also for the photodynamic therapy of cancer.
The compound BODP is a fluorescent dye. Such dyes absorb certain wavelengths of light and re-emit it at longer wavelengths, hence are used to visualize cells in real time. Attaching glucose to it makes it water soluble. This also helps to identify the cancer cells based on their high sugar uptake. When in contact with a specific light wavelength, the dye excites and generates a form of oxygen that kills these cells.
When we shine a light upon a photosensitizer, it goes from ground singlet state to excited triplet state. And this triplet state can transfer its energy to the triplet ground state of oxygen present in the cells. And this way, we can generate highly cytotoxic species singlet oxygen.
As this compound is toxic to cells, it becomes crucial to selectively target the cancer cells.
As we know that cancer cells have very high cell proliferation rate and they also require high amount of energy for cell division. Typically, they show higher uptake of glucose and galactose as compared to normal cells. So, the idea behind this work was attach glucose and galactose moiety to our fluorescent probe BODP and then target the cancer cells. What we observed that our glucose and galactose conjugated BODP was selectively able to internalize and accumulate in the mitochondria of human skin cancer cells and cervical cancer cells.
The next step in this research will be animal trials. Later, probably experiments on humans. The last step, and it can take several years, will be the commercial production of this therapeutic agent.
Fainter cosmic signals originated by the collision of two black holes about 2 billion years ago were now detected by researchers at IIT Gandhinagar and Chennai Mathematical Institute. They are part of gravitational waves, which are invisible ripples in space-time, like the ripples in a pond when a stone is tossed in. They are caused by violent and energetic processes in the universe, like the collision of black holes. A couple of years ago, for the first time, scientists detected the strongest components of waves from that 2 billion years ago collision.
What we did this time was to be able to see the other subtler components of this wave. which were known in theory. In fact, people had already worked out what they might look like and what their effect could be on the signals from binary black holes and so on. But they were so faint that they could not be detected. The uniqueness of this result is both from the point of view of developing a technique which could extract this, but also be able to see those components which are a consequence of the theory.
Gravitational waves were theoretically predicted by Einstein in 1915. More than 1 century later, the signals were observed by LIGO and Virgo detectors in the US and in Italy.
We were very lucky to have this kind of system because these kind of systems, these kind of detectors are eyes wide open kind of detectors. So we do not aim for a particular system. It is out there, and if any gravitational wave comes along, it is going to interact with the detector and we can record that. So we were just very lucky that we got this system on which we could play out all these things.
A dozen observations are already available. Adding new ones, it may be possible to better understand the origins of the universe.
That if you have enough binary black hole observations coming from different parts of the universe in different directions, can you use that information to say how these objects are distributed in the universe, and hence work backward and say what was the picture of the universe way back in time? Yes, it is possible.
Visualizing the same image on different screens demands scaling or cropping it, which could mean losing some details.
It's a computation problem. It's a multimedia problem, you can say, like multimedia content, content presentation, or content adaptation kind of a problem. So how do you adapt a multimedia content to different display devices? We need to throw away some details. Those details we want to throw away from those regions which are not perceptible to the human eye or which are not important. So whatever is important in a given scene, we want to preserve.
IIT Gandhinagar researchers are suggesting a new solution to this problem: seam carving based stereo image retargeting.
It is like a seam is like 1 pixel wide curves, you can say, like horizontal or vertical. So when you want to resize the image, you need to track down a curve which is having something called minimum energy, that means not important, and remove it.
Another example is an image with text.
So this is the original image in which some text is there. For an example, bulldog, stop, and everything. If you see this bulldog also, it is not so clearly visible. With our method, we are able to preserve it in the final.
Shanmuganathan Raman is already looking for the next challenge.
So practically we want to move ahead and do it for video, right? So video retargeting, there are existing methods. How to take those ideas which we presented as novel ideas in these works, how to take it to the video retargeting problem. So ideally what we want is that should be seamless, like capturing scene content using a video and delivering into a display device. It should be a seamless process. For it, the algorithm should run actually real time.
A disease that damages the brain by interrupting its blood supply. Symptoms of stroke include problems in walking, speaking, understanding, paralysis, and numbness in the leg, arm, or face. Vinit Vasishta, a professor in mechanical engineering at IIT Gandhinagar, along with his team, have designed a leg exoskeleton with the purpose of rehabilitation of stroke patients.
So what we have actually done here is we have used cable-driven robotic platform to convert that into a leg exoskeleton. So couple of interesting feature is it is wearable, and then it uses these cables like which are flexible, which can route around your body. So in a way, we can relate these with a biological system.
Inside our arms and legs, we have agonist and antagonist muscles that cause us to operate our bodies. The team conceptualized this exoskeleton based on a similar principle.
So inside our arm, we have these muscles which actuates our body, right? So based on the similar principle, we conceptualize this exoskeleton where these cables are routed around your body to actuate different part of your body. The need for this comes is because of various neurological disorders, people lose some of their movement capabilities. One good example is stroke patients who, because of the stroke incident, their muscle becomes weak and they are unable to walk. One of their leg, they are unable to actuate their joints. For this purpose, there are a number of leg exoskeletons that are being made internationally as well as some part in India as well. However, they use rigid links, kind of bulky system itself, which is very hard to wear, and then it affects your walking pattern in an undesirable fashion. So there is being lately an understanding that we need to improve these human-robot interactions. So by using these robots, which are very lightweight, which adapts to your walking pattern and then applies small amount of external force at various body parts.
A human-centric robotic technology, this device is a wearable adaptive rehabilitation suitwear and the team has named it VRS. The idea here is not to create this exoskeleton with the objective to make patients dependent on it, that they will wear it and walk. Rather, it aims to train them so that they can regain some of their movement capabilities. It will, of course, assist them to walk during this process.
These robotic devices apply forces on your ankle, forces on your hip, and then based on the control paradigm that is being programmed, you change your walking pattern. And going through this repeatedly, the hypothesis is it will improve your walking pattern even over ground without the exoskeleton. The next phase of this work involves taking this system in presence of these physical therapists, doctors, attaching it to stroke patient and then taking their input, and there may be some adaptation of the system as well.
Currently, the team is in the process of developing its second and improved exoskeleton versions in terms of control logics. Equipped with a fast training system and more effective sensors, it will ensure better performance.
Sudipta Basu joined IIT Gandhinagar in 2018 as a professor and researcher in chemistry. He came from Indian Institute of Science Education and Research in Pune, where he and his team developed a nanoparticle that impairs the evolution of cancer cells.
Our basic idea is to, no matter what, we want the cancer cells to be dead.
The nanoparticle is a kind of a package that will induce stress in ER, endoplasmic reticulum, the protein factor of the cell. This stress will eventually lead to the death of cancer cells. The package has a tag, which serves as the address, a fluorescent element that allows tracking with a microscope, and the drug that will inhibit the chaperone protein. This protein destroys the unwanted proteins in a normal cell.
This nanoparticle goes inside the cells, which we can see under the microscope, the confocal microscopy, and when it is inside the cells, because of these tags or endoplasmic reticulum address, it localizes further into endoplasmic reticulum and releases its payload to inhibit HSP90, and when it inhibited, more and more unwanted proteins are accumulated, and that leads to endoplasmic reticulum stress, and that stress eventually leads to cancer cell death.
For this research, a certain type of cells was used.
We used one particular cervical cancer cell line. So it can be used for different types of cancer cell lines like breast cancer cells, like ovarian cancer cells or lung cancers and so on.
As this process kills cells, it is important to differentiate cancer cells from normal ones.
The vasculature is completely different. So the vasculature in near the cancer tissues are much more bigger. The pore size is much more bigger, which can be passed by these nanoparticles. But if it is a healthy tissue, those junctions are very much tight. The tissue or cell junctions are very much tight. So that is why these nanoparticles will not be able to invade those healthy tissues, and that is one of the important features of these nanoparticles, that it will have less effect to the healthy cells compared to the cancer cells.
The next step in this research will be animal trials. Later, probably experiments on humans. And the last step, and it can take more than 10 years, it will be industrial production for next generation cancer therapy.